Before we jump into today's video, I just want to let y'all know that this video is actually also a podcast. My podcast, Divine Authenticity, that comes out every single Tuesday. Links for it are down below. It's available everywhere you listen to podcasts. And sometimes the podcast episodes become videos that also go up here. So if you'd like to catch more of this, listen to more of this weekly, this kind of content, definitely make sure you check it out. Again, that link is going to be down below. Hello there, my beautiful pumpkins. Whether you are watching the video or listening to the podcast, welcome in. Before we jump into today's topic, I want to remind those of you that are interested or have not joined, I do have my Patreon available to you where I put out new content that you can't get anywhere else, early access to all of my content, including the videos for this podcast. You get them before they go live on the channel. You also get a backstock catalog of everything that I've produced over there as soon as you sign up. And it gives me the freedom and the ability to continue to create content the way that I do, having that support there. So it just supports me as a creator, and you get a bunch of extra content for joining in. So definitely check it out. Link is down below. But let's get into today's topic. Today is probably going to be a little bit of a shorter podcast or shorter video, but I really wanted to give y'all my perspective on this Pluto return in the United States of America. It is the hot topic right now because it is about to come exact. So Pluto takes many years to come back to something like 250 plus years to come back to the place that it was in when a country is born, which for us was in 1776, I believe. And Pluto is about to come basically back around to the point in the sky that it was when the United States declared itself its own independent country. So we are going through what is known as the Pluto return of the United States of America. It is happening in the second house of Taurus. So just to kind of give you a little background on this, the second house of Taurus is all about work and material goods and stability. And so Pluto, this planet of deep transformation, this is what is coming in to change. Pluto comes in the words of Alyssa Sharp, it comes in like a wrecking ball for what it is trying to transform. It comes in like a wrecking ball and just kind of knocks everything down. And I know we've had a lot of fear-mongering in the astrology community, and I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't think astrologers are out here just trying to tell everybody to be afraid. They're literally just reading the stars and giving you the facts. And I wanted to bring my interpretation of a survival guide or just a few tips for you for this Pluto return. Even if you're not in the United States and you don't live here, it still affects the world. When another country goes through their Pluto return, that energy is still going to ripple out in some way. So it may not be as severe in other countries, but the effects are still going to ripple out regardless, because we all impact each other constantly on a micro level and on a macro level. So that's why I feel like it's important to make this content no matter where you live, to just pay attention. And as this Pluto transit is happening, the reason that it's being talked about so heavily right now is because the degree, that's all astrology is a bunch of geometry. Literally, it's a bunch of mathematical equations. Oop, that's the truth coming out. I feel like when my phone dings, we're just getting a little notification that it's the truth. It's just a bunch of geometry. So, the degree at which Pluto is coming to, it is coming to the exact point of its return, which I believe that happens on the 22nd, which if you're listening to the podcast, that should be the day that this podcast airs. That is the 22nd of February, 2022. And what's interesting is that too, obviously 2 is its own thing in numerology, but 2, the second house of Taurus, we have a lot of 2 energy going on. But As this is taking place, the degree is coming exact. So it's going to be like right on top of what it was when the country was born. But I want to say, as like the first point of 3 that I want to make with this is not new. Like, I think that there's a lot of fear-based energy going into the prediction of this. And yes, the intensity may crank up at this time, but this is not new. We're not just going to wake up on the day that Pluto comes exact and everything is going to be in shambles. We have watched this progressively happen because Pluto has been in the sign that it is in currently for a long time. Like, it's not transitioning over right now. This has already happened. And in fact, I want to say I actually wrote some of this stuff down on Pluto specifically for this video and then totally forgot to take this out. But basically, we will see in 2023, Pluto will move into the sign of Aquarius for like a brief period of time, and then it will kind of be in and out next year. This is kind of like the last intense year. And I am going to link Alyssa Sharp's video or the Divine Venus's video on 2022, because I think she had a lot of valuable information on Pluto in that video and just on the cosmos for the year in general. So definitely check that out. She doesn't know me personally, but I consider her like a mentor to me because I just think that she teaches such amazing things about astrology, and I just get a lot from her. I learn so much. But when it comes to this return, it's not new. We've already seen basically people like refusing to go back to work because the divide between the rich and the poor is, and I'm trying not to make this super political, but I feel like we can't just not talk about it when it comes to Pluto specifically, but we're already seeing this divide between the rich and the poor. There is no middle working class because that is what is being transformed. And people are demanding better conditions because they're already poor. And so if you're already poor, it's like, do I continue to go and sell my soul for this job when I'm already poor anyways and I'm not making a livable wage because the inflation is so crazy? So we're already seeing like this big worker strike happening. We're already seeing the demand for better. We're already seeing this fall apart. So I don't want everyone to feel like we're going to wake up on the 22nd and feel like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is doomsday. It's not. We're already seeing the progression of how this has ticked up. And ultimately, it's being transformed for the better. And so I wanted to like make that very clear right in the front of this video that this is not something that we're going to wake up and it's doomsday. I don't believe that it's going to work like that. We've already been seeing the theme of this for quite some time. And I want to say even since like 2008, like the recession back in 2008, 2009, we have already been witnessing this. And the second point I want to make is that I know a lot of us, especially in like, I want to say maybe like millennial generation, Gen Z generation, a lot of us are, not everybody, but I think a lot of us are very obsessed with the idea of like living off the land, starting a farm, moving away from like basically government control and doing things more on our own and independently. And many of us maybe did not get that opportunity as we're coming into such a, like, I hesitate to say catastrophic event because I don't even think that's it. But as we're coming into such a high point in history, in astrology and in history, many of us maybe did not get that opportunity. And there's a lot of fear of like, oh no, I didn't make it there. I didn't get there. I didn't make the farm. I didn't get to have my tiny house. And now everything's going to crumble and I'm going to go down with it. And I just want to say that obviously this gets a little esoteric. It gets a little bit more on the spiritual side of things. And I'm not trying to tell you what to believe. I'm just giving you a different perspective. If it is something that you choose to believe, rock on. If not, just disregard this. Just, it's not your thing. But just a piece of advice that I think really helps me at this time is I really do believe that we got to choose. We chose our birth charts. We chose to come here at this time. We chose to be in this country at this time to watch this happen and to be a part of it. And because of that, we are exactly where we are supposed to be. If you're on your farm in your tiny house with your dog and your beautiful flourishing plants, awesome. That's right where you're supposed to be on that homestead. If you're not, and you're not self-sustaining, and you're somebody that is demanding better conditions, that's where you're supposed to be. If you are self-employed, doing your own thing, still trying to keep your head above water, that's okay. That's where you're supposed to be at this time. And it might not be exactly where you hoped you would be during this transit, but you chose to come here and be in here at this time, no matter how it shakes out. And I feel like there is something to be said about that. There is something to be said about not being afraid, about not being farther ahead, or not where you hoped you would be before this happened. And I'm saying that more to like my past self, who was very afraid of that I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to be fully self-sustaining by 2022 or my whole life is going to fall apart. And I don't think that's actually true. I think that wherever you are right now is exactly where you're supposed to be. And it doesn't mean that you can't reach for better. It doesn't mean that things can't improve or change or shift. But I think in order for those shifts to even start to happen, we have to accept what is and not be so hard and down on ourselves for not being somewhere else. So I don't know which one of y'all needed that message. I know past me needed that message. So I wanted to include that in here. And then lastly, the thing that I want to say is that you are doing your best. From a psychology standpoint, I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, so please do not take the things that I say for medical diagnosis or medical advice. Go and seek medical attention if you need it, or psychiatric attention if you need it. But through my own study, y'all know I have a deep fascination with psychology. I study a lot of depth psychology and astrology and how they correlate together, because I don't think that logic and mysticism should be divided. I think that they actually belong together. And I think it is a big part of my own life purpose to bring those two things together, because when we work with them, I think that we actually get really, really, really beautiful outcomes when we're able to surrender some, but also learn some. And I want to say, just from the psychological standpoint, and this also comes from my bestest friend in the entire world, and I consider one of my mentors. She also does social media management for me. We've talked about this at great lengths, and also I see it all over TikTok. Like when I was doing social media for a little bit, I've kind of been taking a break, but when I was consuming a lot of social media, I see this a lot with therapist TikTok or psychology TikTok, that if you're burnt out right now, if you're tired, and people are just saying oh, get a therapist to get back into the real world. No. The best thing you can do right now, if you feel like you're struggling, if things feel hard, if you feel burnt out, the number one thing you can do is actually nourish and nurture yourself. Because you're not going to be able to solve the entire world's problems. You're not going to be the sole person that is going to be in control of all of this, and making yourself stress and be dissatisfied and uncomfortable, it's going to make you spiral. And the best thing you can do is turn off the noise and give to yourself. Nurture yourself, nourish yourself, get back in touch with the things that you love, with the things that you desire. And I'm not saying never pay attention to the world around you. I think that it's healthy to do that. But I also think it's very important that you tend to yourself at this time and honor your own vibration versus trying to honor everything the world is asking of you right now. Because the more you do that, I believe that it's going to increase the stress, the fear, and it's just going to make you feel like a very miserable person at this time if this Pluto transit is hitting you very heavily. And unfortunately, again, I'm not trying to make this super political, but the world sucks right now. And I don't know if I can speak for every single location, but I feel like what we are going through collectively is a collective burnout. The density of the planet is very, very, very crushing. And you're not going to be able to yoga and meditate and breath work and like tarot card your way out. I got mascara under my eyes. It's a mess. Ignore all of this. This is editing Chloe from the future. I just needed to insert a little clip in this video to say that basically when I said like you can't meditate, you can't tarot cards, you can't shift this away from yourself, I am not saying that those things are not helpful. What I am saying is that through these things, yes, do them. It is healthy and good for you to pick up practices that make you feel good, but don't expect these things to solve the world's problems. It's good to connect with yourself. I'm not saying don't do that. I filmed this video during Mercury retrograde and it shows, especially in the editing process. But what I am saying is, yes, connect with yourself in those ways, but don't expect that you're going to solve the world's problems by like praying the problems away. That's not going to work with this kind of heavy transit. And the best thing to do is to connect with yourself. You're going to have to tune into what's in here and nourish yourself and nourish your soul. I'm not saying that it's bad to practice all of those things, but we're not living in the world that we were living in several years ago. It's different right now. And the more that we can tend to self and stop letting in the fear and the stress of the outside environment, or maybe just giving it to ourselves in little pieces instead of constantly focusing on the news or constantly focusing on social media or constantly giving your energy and your power away to things outside of you. I really do believe that at this time when this transit is popping off the way that it is, it's going to be the thing that's going to help you the most, is to come back here, to come back to you. And if you tend to use coping mechanisms to ignore who you are or ignore feeling the feelings or being with yourself, this is going to be hard. It's going to be hard at first to come back to yourself if you don't have an intimate relationship with yourself. But ultimately, it's not impossible. It's not impossible. You have the ability, you have the power. And I'm not saying don't go out there and find a therapist that can assist you on that journey. But ultimately, you are your own best healer and you are your own pathway to self-empowerment. And that is the best you're going to be able to do at this time if things are feeling dense for you, if you're having a hard time. I think I'm speaking mostly to the people that feel highly empathic or highly sensitive. I think a lot of us are really feeling this collective energy a lot harder because we're very conscious of it. And it honestly is just, it hurts. It's crushing. And so feed yourself good food. And that doesn't mean healthy food. I'm not trying to put a label on what you should eat. You know, whatever makes you feel really good. Move your body in ways that feels good. Again, I'm not talking about going out there and exercising for 5 hours a day. Just even gentle movements, stretching, getting into breath work, getting into meditation, getting into journaling is a really great practice, especially for those of you that have a hard time imagining. Journaling can be fantastic for letting things out and really coming home to yourself. Maybe pick up on a hobby or something that you loved in the past. I've been really into digital art lately. I've been doing a lot of that, getting back into acrylic painting. There are so many things you can do at this time, but the most important thing is picking on things that nourish your soul. If you don't like yoga, don't do yoga. If you don't like to meditate and it stresses you out, don't do that. Do something that actually makes you feel good. I'll give you some examples for me. I really enjoy journaling 3 pages a day. I think it really helps. I really enjoy putting together Lego sets. I know that's kind of an expensive hobby, but I feel like it's something that engages my mind and my inner child really likes it. I also really enjoy watching like comfort shows, things that I already know how they end so they don't trigger my anxiety. So I'll watch like Gilmore Girls or Gossip Girl or Vampire Diaries or something that I've already seen all of it. So I feel like comfortable watching it, especially if you're anxious. I highly encourage rewatching shows. Same with comfort movies, and also making sure that you're spending time around people that nourish you and make space for you and you make space for them. I think that we underestimate the power of truly nourishing relationships. So these are just like tips and tricks from like my own psychology spiritual playbook, I guess. I don't even know what you'd want to call it. These are just things that right now I'm really focused on. They help me. And I've also, if you're able to, I understand that it is such a privilege to be able to walk away and not have to consume so much all the time. But from, I want to say like the end of January until at least May, I'm going to reassess how I feel. I have deleted all social media apps from my phone. I still have like, even YouTube is not on my phone. I just use it at my computer, but I have a social media manager that handles all of my posting. I might make things, but the posting isn't done by me. And I think just getting off of social media and tuning back into myself is something that has just, it's like really gratifying and helps me to re-empower myself and not be so focused on everything else. And again, I don't think this is about just ignoring the world and ignoring the world's problems. I think we are not going to be able to solve them all individually. So it's really important that we individually take care of ourselves so that we can show up for the battle together. And that's ultimately the point that I want to make. So I know I feel like this topic has been a little bit heavy and a little bit serious because it is, but I really just wanted to give you a perspective that I haven't seen anywhere else. And maybe somebody else has made a video like this and we're all going to come out at the same time, but I haven't seen this specific perspective. And so you don't have to take my word as like the gospel or anything. That's not why I'm here. I'm here just to give you my perspective on what I'm seeing when I'm looking at the chart, what I'm learning from other mentors, and also from my own experience and my own intuition, what I'm feeling will be best for the collective at this time, and especially for my community that we bond over a lot of the same things. So that is what I have for y'all. May your Pluto return be, filled with a lot of ease and nourishment that you're able to provide for yourself. Please do not forget to follow me on Instagram, on TikTok. Posts are still going out, even though I am not physically there. And don't forget to check out the podcast, Divine Authenticity. New episodes every single Tuesday. And last but certainly not least, if you would like to support my work, more of this type of content in particular, I feel like Patreon is the reason I get to make content like this, because honestly, these kinds of videos and podcasts, they do not pay my bills. Like, this kind of stuff is all passion projects, and like tarot card reading is really what helps me sustain. But because I have so much support on Patreon, I'm able to make more content like this in my spare time. So if you like content like this, definitely join up over there. Support me as a creator if you're able to. No pressure, of course. And that link and everything for the podcast, all that jazz, is going to be down below. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I'll put the video link in the description when it's available. And please do not forget, when you stand in your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. I love you so much, pumpkin, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.